The Commonwealth People's Forum, as you know, is held every 2 years. And this is alongside the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, or CHOGM for short. And it brings together civil society representatives from across the 56 Commonwealth countries. Now, in 2024, this gathering will be hosted by the beautiful Pacific Island nation of Samoa. Let's begin today's conversation by reflecting on the progress that has been made since the People's Forum 2022.
There was no mechanism at the international level to help them recover from climate impacts. For the audience to know that we always focused on mitigation, which means emission reduction. Then we started talking about adaptation, which is preparing. But what about people who are already facing the devastating impacts of climate change for no fault of theirs? For us, it's a matter of climate justice. And that's why we fought for it. And the good news is that after fighting for 30 long years, we finally had a breakthrough at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, where a decision was taken to establish the loss and damage fund. And that is going to create a system that will help people now recover from climate impacts. So it's a breakthrough, but work in progress. And we will continue to fight to make sure that people get support.
Ravi, let me bring you in here because we saw participants at CPF 2022 calling for stronger health services. What are some key developments and progress on UHC, or universal health coverage, since 2022?
These issues, both of expanding health coverage, but also improving financing for health coverage, because ultimately it has to be paid for. Those are the issues that came up last year. And I think also the importance of public financing, in particular taxation. There has been in the past few months, I think, much more attention by the IMF and the World Bank to the importance of raising taxes. And in fact, a report just came out last month by the IMF showing that most developing countries, for example, in the Commonwealth, they can raise taxes by at least 5 or 6% of GDP. Governments should respond to public pressure. In most of the Commonwealth, we have democratic societies, and taxes are ultimately a political issue and should reflect what voters want and how they just assess the balance between taxes and spending. Here, I think the big challenge remains how and whether civil society stands up to generate the pressure to raise taxes to finance better social solidarity and health coverage. And that often doesn't happen.
Thanks, Ravi. And speaking of the role civil society can play, Nuong, let me come to you as we shift to freedom of expression.
There's been a lot of public awareness and activism, and that's helping to promote freedom of expression. We have to critically examine political interference because it is the cause of most of the infractions against freedom of expression. We know that governments continue to attempt to influence media outlets and control narratives and undermine the independence of the press. I also think that we need to look at the funding of independent journalism, because these are usually the journalists who are less biased, are less able to be influenced, and are better able to tell the story with the right facts.
Tijani, let me come to you as we talk about Commonwealth reform. Now, you chaired the Commonwealth Youth Council between 2018 and 2022. And since then, what positive opportunities would you say have really opened up?
Particularly recently, the Commonwealth Youth Ministers meeting happened in London, where we had participation from, yes, decision makers in terms of youth ministers in the member state, but we also had the participation of a youth forum. In a lot of multilateral organizations, that is an anomaly. You're invited, but it doesn't mean that you're at the table to speak. And so the Commonwealth does have a strong legacy to build on.
Where should civil society focus their efforts in the lead up to CPF 2024 and really beyond that?
We are beginning to tackle the consequences of climate change, but not the cause, that is fossil fuels. The reality is that we continue to use and burn fossil fuels, which are intensifying the climate crisis. We have to have a just and equitable approach to move away from fossil fuels, and rich countries have to provide finance.
The second part of our conversation, we'll be hearing from frontline advocates, activists, and practitioners who will explore how local voices have been amplified in policy and decision-making spaces at the national, international, and Commonwealth level.
One of the challenges I felt going from local climate work to global advocacy was trying to please everyone. There is no right way. You will not please everyone. You will not please every government nor every organization. You can only do you. And I think the easiest way to find this and to figure this all out is to seek out mentorship, to seek out the people who came before us, who can show us a path down the road that we believe change will be.
I firstly agree with Brianna that there's no right way to do advocacy. I think when we talk about collaboration, it's really important for us to, one, collaborate across different civil society organizations, but also across sectors, which is something, again, we don't do very well. But then also, I think in terms of the momentum that can really drive change, being able to leverage that collective action during those windows of opportunity.
The big question is, what does youth participation actually mean? If you're talking about representation of young people in parliament, are we actually putting money into the campaigns of young people? Yes, we're running workshops, but I don't think young people and women need workshops. They need tangible money and investments to run their campaigns. I think in terms of scaling, there's this massive divide between what's happening in the world in terms of technology, in terms of design innovations, versus the mindsets of people in policy.
Freedom of expression is very critical for human rights in general, but also it's the right that individuals to hold their leaders to account. If I look at issues around access to information laws, you see most of the initiatives are civil society led. So I think it's important that we talk about mobilizing and also working with legal practitioners and encourage more legal practitioners to come on board and support this reform, because these are at the heart of democracy, at the heart of the protection of human rights.
We'll be using your contributions from this event to help shape the regional conversations as well as the content for the forum in 2024. The first regional conversation will take place on the 6th of February, so mark your calendars. So let's continue with this exciting journey towards Samoa together. Thank you all for joining and contributing. Goodbye for now.